Game of the Year 2023 is an interesting one for me. And, well, right before we get started, I should apologize for my voice and any strange cuts you might see because I still have some coughing fits because I'm kind of working through a bout of bronchitis right now. But, I want to take part in the Game of the Year celebration for GVG, even though looking back over my year of playing games released this year, it's actually kind of thin, a lot more thin than I was hoping for, because I really went into this year wanting to play as much as I could, at least one major game a month. And eventually I couldn't quite pull that off. That said, I have played 11 games this year, not beaten all of them, but I have played 11. And I'll just go through some of the early ones real quick, just give some quick thoughts and just say what I think about them before getting into more of a proper Game of the Year discussion and talking more about those games. First up, Sonic Superstars is a fine Sonic game. It's good 2D, but as many people have mentioned, and as Ash and I mentioned in our discussion about the game, the bosses bring that game down so much. They are just so bad, especially the final boss, and I didn't even bother with the requirements to get the final ending and all that. I was just like, nah, screw this. I ran out of patience with that game and ultimately decided it really wasn't worth finishing. Next up is FZero 99. Enjoyed what I played of it, just didn't go back to it a lot. I didn't fall in love with it in the same way as John did. I've played multiple FZero games and none of them have truly hooked me. It's a fine enough series, it's just not for me. Next up is Sea of Stars, and I believe this one is so low for me because I still have not finished it. I basically finished, last time I played, I encountered the, big twist in the game, which all I can say is thank God for that twist, because as much as I'm enjoying running around in that world, having all of the exploration opportunities that game provides, some interesting puzzles, and some pretty decent battles, it's not clicking with me in the same way as it has seemed for a lot of people. Now, granted, I feel like I'm still very early in and trying to get the sense for it. But yeah, the music's great, the art style is great, it all clicks there, but something about the gameplay is just holding it back for me. The story, at least up to that point, was not interesting enough. It was just fine, you had a certain goal, but nothing really went beyond that. Outside of Garl, no real character stood out in a fun way that really got you invested. There's other fine characters, but you haven't really got really sucked in. And I think it's a good game that I think might suffer for some people as a bit of overhype. Now, granted, I completely understand anybody that truly loves this game, and I'm still going to be playing through it. I intend to finish Sea of Stars because I want to see how it all picks up from where it stopped. There was like, oh, cool, there's a hook now. Where was that hook for the first 9 hours of the game? I don't know where, but hey, at least it's getting fun, and the combat's opening up a bit more, and get to see more of what's actually going to happen. But it's fine, but it hasn't hooked me in the right way. But maybe in the future. Next up, Street Fighter VI. Played it when it first came out, played the entirety of its single-player campaign, played through each of the arcade modes, and even went online for a little bit. Really, really, really enjoyed that game. I'd love to have more time to get back to it, try out the more characters beyond Rashid. I still have not got the chance to check out Aki. I'm hoping when Ed gets announced, I can just sort of slip back in right there. Because when I did play, I really enjoyed. And I think it's a fantastic fighter. And would love the opportunity to just play it more and more. But just, haven't got the opportunity because there's other games on the list that I kind of want to finish up too, rather than just getting the same fights over and over again. That said, I still really enjoy it and fully intend to go back at some point and play more of these characters and see what it has to offer and just do as much as I can. But really fun time. And then next up beyond that, and it's crazy that I've played so little of this game, yet I still rank it above Street Fighter VI, but it's also more my type of game, and that's Final Fantasy XVI. Now, to mark where I left off in this game the last time I played it, Jill was only just waking up. So I'm extremely early in the game, but the combat is really hooking me in. The story has me very much intrigued. I know it's a little off for other people where it's like they're not fully invested in the story by the time it gets to the end, but I'm not at that point yet. I am still very much in for Clive's journey, and I'm very intrigued by this whole new idea of what Final Fantasy is with 16 and want to explore more. And it's a perfect opportunity for me because the DLC just came out, so I can just weave that right into my gameplay and when I next play and just enjoy it even further. But Final Fantasy 16, I'm looking forward to getting back to. It'd probably be higher on the list, to be honest, if I had the opportunity to play more, but I feel like I'm still so early in to really see what this game can do that I'm just going to leave it kind of here. That's out of the sort of in the games that I played, but wouldn't quite hit the ranking of my best of the year, my favorites of the year. That actually begins with Metroid Prime Remastered at number 6, because I had the opportunity to play it. It is fantastic, as good as you'd ever remember it. The new controls are flawless. It is still as fun as a Metroid as you could ever expect, and it looks gorgeous. Love this game to death. It is sort of the game to kind of kick off my love of Metroid that I just that and the 1-2 punch of it in Fusion, but really got me into the series and exploring more of them, and to have it back, it really just makes you want the same for Metroid Prime 2 and 3. Hopefully that happens because, my God, the work done to this game to make it just so much fun, and the little quality of life improvements here and there are fantastic. It is, it's just a remaster, but it's a really well done remaster, so I can't recommend that one enough. God, that was a lot of fun. Next up is Super Mario Bros. Wonder at number 5, and it's a great Mario game. It is so much fun to play through each of these levels, see what new gimmick will happen thanks to the Wonder Flowers, encountering the new power-ups. It is a great return to form as far as Mario platformers go, and I love to see them iterate on this style and go even further the next time, in the same way that they found ways to improve upon New Super Mario Bros., even though it never captured the essence of the originals. But this one has the style to back it up, really pushing things forward as far as level designs and level themes and just the way they handled everything. It really makes a great first impression with just how huge its first world is. Unfortunately, it does stumble a little bit, in my opinion, in how it continues, where, unfortunately, none of the bosses outside the final boss, and even it has its own issue that is more of a Nintendo issue, but not really. I still really enjoyed the final boss, but every other boss just being variations of Bowser Jr. with a different Wonder Flower power. There was so much more you could do with this concept, and I don't know why they just stuck to Bowser Jr. It feels like such a missed opportunity, especially when 2 of the worlds didn't have bosses at all. It just felt so weird. And in general, the game is easier than most, making it very much a smooth ride without any of the real teeth that I would like, at least at some points. Now, granted, the final level of the game definitely will kick you in the teeth. It will offer quite the challenge, and I appreciated that, but something to build up to that, because it was either like super easy or just a cliff. It's like there was no real gradual ramp up that I like to see in a lot of platformers, and it's a shame, but I still had a ton of fun with this game and really enjoyed the integration of story. It's not like major story, but it kind of has a Paper Mario-esque story to it, where each area you go to has its own little troubles that Bowser Jr. is causing, and by platforming through these sections, you solve their problem. You have this little story go to it. It's nothing major in the slightest, but it adds just a little bit of extra flavor that you could see them taking this concept and rearranging it to work better as an RPG. But to have it work as a platformer, and with so many different characters available to choose from and such wonderful online to experience, it's a fantastic game. Definitely top of the line of the year, but not quite my favorite, just because of the reasons before, but still fantastic game. Next up, Theater Rhythm Final Bar Line, and this was my comfort game all year. I love this game. I picked it up when it first came out and was just addicted to it. I played through each song. I 100% completed the basically main quest mode. I've played through every single song, including all the DLC. It just pulls me in each and every time. It just puts me in this comfort zone. And for a while, I was actually thinking of like, oh, I'll get all the feats. Unfortunately, there's one feat on the list that makes it seem like, oh, I'm never going to get this, because you've got to get incredible accuracy at the the max difficulty on a song. And I struggled to get it on hard. I enjoy the game. I wouldn't say I'm fantastic at it, but it's such a good time. And as you play it, it just puts you in the mood to play these games. You have these, and this was before the Pixel remasters came out, but you're playing through like the Final Fantasy III music or the Final Fantasy V music. It's like, man, where are the Pixel remasters so I can actually boot up this game and enjoy it in its context, because this music is so good. And the gameplay is wonderful. And the nice thing for me as well is I was able to easily play this in front of my son. A lot of times my son just kind of gets bored watching me play certain games and he'll want to put on his own stuff. Fair enough. He doesn't want me to, I can just play on handheld or what have you. But a lot of times the music would be playing and he'd be watching, and he'd just actually be entranced into the music, into the gameplay, and just enjoyed watching me play it. And that's something special when your 2-year-old could really get into the music in the same way as you did, and hope that maybe he'll get into those games further down the line. But yeah, as Theater Rhythm, it was the top of the year for a long time, until like the obvious big ones were going to come out. But still, just holds a real place in my mind. It's just a fantastic game, and really recommend it. It's definitely going down in price, at least for the base game. You're still going to be paying quite a bit for all the DLC, but you can pick and choose, I suppose, depending on what you want. But I think all the DLC is fantastic, even for games I'm not familiar with. It makes me hear it and be like, maybe I should check that out. That sort of idea. It's a nice primer for a lot of the Final Fantasy stuff, and yeah, just a really, really good time. Next up, number 3 is I very much go by the same policy as John, especially for Xenoblade Chronicles, because Future Redeemed came out this year. Now, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was my game of the year last year, despite me not finishing at the time, and I can say for certain that I hold true to that decision from 2022. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was just absolutely my game of the year. That said, I don't know if it's my favorite of the trilogy. I think that still holds to 2, just because 3 was quite good, but I feel like it suffered from a bit of a weak final boss. Not like the final boss itself, like not the fight, but just the overall villain didn't quite hit as hard. And even though the other stuff and the other characters really did step it up after a while, it didn't quite click with me in the exact same way as 2. And I feel like 2 just really captured my imagination at the time. But 3 is still excellent. And Future Redeemed manages to do what I was hoping the game would do when I first saw Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and saw all the land masses and all the places that were references to Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2. To have Future Redeemed have those references, where you get Shulk, where you get Rex, where you get to see kind of what happened to them after their games and what led to all this, and getting just more lore dropped and more character progression, and seeing how things tied into the stuff from Xenoblade Chronicles 3, all has this connective tissue that makes it such a delight to play and to see what you've missed out on, or where all the connective tissue lies, and makes you really involved in the lore. And then when you get to the final bits, and all I'll say is that radio is insane for the whole context of Xeno and Xenoblade. I love that kind of stuff, and I understand why it can't be in the main game, because you put all that stuff in there and the newcomers will be like, I don't want to play 2 150-hour RPGs in order to figure out what's going on here. 3 is still very much open to people who not played the first 2 and can still enjoy it. Our oldest son was exactly that. He only played Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and was able to completely enjoy it on its own. He probably wouldn't get as much out of Future Redeemed. Future Redeemed is very much dedicated to fans of the first 2 games, and to really pull from that The gameplay is just as good, and the way they handle the overworld with all like you get these extra things if you do all the extra stuff, or you take on these unique monsters, and you can just build up your characters that way. It made me want to 100% that game so much, and I absolutely did it up to a certain point where there's like the super bosses I never really bothered with. But the combat was as fun as ever. Really unique ideas. Story was great. World was a lot of fun. The Return of Colony 9, great. Just a standout game. Great DLC. Nice and quick and digestible, with being 20 to 30 hours depending on how you play it. So yeah, just top of the line once again. My number 2 game of the year is Resident Evil 4, the remake. And this is me not even having played the Ada DLC yet. I plan to pick that up soon, but I just haven't had a chance before this point. But yeah, even just as the base game, Resident Evil 4 is still such a delight to play. And it's something that people have praised quite a bit this year. It's been said before, but it finds a way to remake Resident Evil 4 without supplanting the original Resident Evil 4. They are very different flavors of the same experience. Even though the original 4 has some more outlandish encounters or some other encounters, and 4 sort of truncates those or changes them up a bit, and they're still fun in the exact same way. I can play through either game and have such a great time, and I love that about that. That's great when a remake is just as good as the original but doesn't actually replace it. You can still enjoy both, and to have Resident Evil 4 manage that it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed how they expanded upon Ashley's character, how they expanded upon Luis's character, how they made Sadler more of a villain in the shadows, and not, the cackling villain, the showing up and being like, why haven't you killed me yet? You could easily do that at this point. There's so many great changes that make the plot flow a little better than the original and make it seem more in line with the recent 2 and 3 remakes, making it all seem kind of fit in there. And there are some actual scares this time around. It's still not as that scary of a game, but there were some points where it did get me a little bit, which I'm all about. That's really cool. I really am looking forward to checking out the Ada DLC, seeing what it has in store. And man, what a great time to be a Resident Evil fan, because I've loved 7, I loved 8, 2, and really enjoyed 2. I have not had a chance to play Resident Evil 3 yet, but I will be getting to that eventually. And whatever they remake next, which I personally hope is Code Veronica, because I feel like it needs it the most. But man, what a great time, and would love to see what they do from here. But for a game that everybody was like, that doesn't need a remake, to, you know what, that's pretty good. I'd say that Capcom did a pretty great job as far as getting this game out there. And I know some people have said that they've kind of like, it's not as memorable after a certain point, that doesn't stick out in their mind. I don't know. I really do enjoy this one, and certain moments do still stand out for me to the point that I probably wouldn't mind playing it again and just seeing it from beginning to end once again and just enjoying it. It really does stand out. Now, as for my game of the year, my favorite game of this year, I thought about it. Once again, I was stuck in that position where I've not finished it, but have I played enough that I can consider this my game of the year despite not finishing it? And yeah, it does that trick again. And that's, of course, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And I was waffling on this back and forth for quite a bit as I was thinking about this, until I got Nintendo's year in review, where it shows how much you played a game. And something I did not realize is I've played Tears of the Kingdom for 96 hours. I've only finished 2 dungeons. I've explored a good bit of the underground. I've gotten a decent amount of shrines. Like, I've done a lot in this game. I've just not finished it. I've gotten all the tears and seen a lot of the story content that really pops. And I know people really praise the finale, and I want to get to that finale at some point and see what people are talking about and see what it has to do. But the game is just a delight to play. It really is so much fun, and I really do look forward to getting back to it and just getting into that groove. The best time I had with it where I was able to really get into that groove was during a week-long vacation. And I was surrounding friends, and multiple of us were playing different points. And it'd come up and we'd just be hanging out and seeing what was there and pointing out different things and exploring it and see what happened. It was just a really good time. You really were able to I was able to really just lose myself in the game. And that experience really is something special. And yeah, it may not be the true like revolution that the original Breath of the Wild was, but I don't think it needs to be. This is a fantastic update to a game that expands upon what came before, having an entire skyline to explore, having an entire underground to explore, which I spent so much more time under there than I would have thought. I really do enjoy finding all those things and figuring out how to get around. And I'm not even that great at building. I don't figure out all the weird machines that people do, and I'm sort of just more of an efficient one trying to do what I can. But the game is still a ton of fun for me, and I look forward to seeing what else it has to offer as I get to the water dungeon and the Gerudo dungeon. I'm not sure what that'll be themed after, but just a fantastic game front to back. And as you can see, there's a lot of games that could be considered for Game of the Year that I just have not touched. Would have loved to play at some point and really checked out, but these were just the games I was able to actually get my hands on and play. Played a bunch of old games as well. But, I was only counting games that came out this year. And these were the games that came out this year that I got the chance to play. And yeah, Tears of the Kingdom, number one, kind of an easy choice, kind of an obvious choice ever since it came out. It didn't really feel like there was going to be any challengers. And maybe Baldur's Gate could have done it. I don't know. I'm not a big D&D guy, but maybe it could. But I do like my RPGs, so maybe it could have done it. I don't know. That's the fun of it. I'll have to come back at some point and play that game and see if it clicks with me, and check out even more of what this has to offer. Like, there's more of Sea of Stars to play. There's more of Resident Evil 4 to experience. There's the games keep coming, and there's more games already coming out this coming year to look forward to, where we got Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I got to make time to play that. I mean, because that's an easy Game of the Year choice for me for 2024. So yeah, that is my lineup for my Games of the Year for 2023. Thank you for bearing with me in my bronchitis voice. Really do appreciate it. Thank you all for supporting us all this year. And let me know what games you chose for your Game of the Year and how you feel about my placement of the games I did play this year. So thank you so much. And of course, if you enjoy all this content we have from Good Vibes Gaming, be sure to check out our Patreon over at patreon.com/gvgaming, and look forward to all the other Games of the Year coming out from the rest of the team this week. So until then, everyone, take care. Bye.